Welcome to the Reconnect Factor, the podcast of the Power Play Reconnect experience. This is the place where you can rest your mind, play a little sometimes, and reconnect to your unique, authentic, and creative self. I'm your host, Ruth Haskins. I'm glad to have you with me today. And as always, I'll begin with the question, what's going well for you today? And I know sometimes we like to focus on what's not going well. So it's nice to just turn that around and ask what's going well for you. And I know it may take a moment for you to focus, but if you do, you will find something that is going well for you today. So today, we're going to take a little change. I've been talking a lot about emotions and vibrations. And today we're going to move into something a little bit more serious. It's going to take me a minute to get there, but I think you'll be able to follow me. So, this conversation is about things that change. And even though things change constantly, and we know that change is inevitable, it's something that we mostly resist. And sometimes even a small change ends up like a ripple effect in our life, and we don't always feel good about it. I watch my cat and see how he reacts to changes I make in our routine or to the way I rearrange furniture. It takes him a while to adjust, and with the lots of sniffing and irritated meows. And I'm in agreement with him. I recognize how interruptions to my routine can leave me unsettled and irritated. So that observation has taught me the real importance of consistency in everything, consistent patterns of activity, whether it's writing a blog or doing a podcast. It's very important to me. When this gets disrupted in any way, I feel a lot like my cat when he discovers the furniture is moved. So, bottom line, change is difficult. And even more so when the pattern to which we have committed ourselves is changed with little notice. For instance, many who use Twitter were fond of that platform and have built businesses and strong social connections. When it was changed, they had to accept the new arrangement or change to a different platform. When that moment of commitment was broken, it was difficult to regain it somewhere else. So, change, time, commitment, all of this factors into something that I call a period of a transition, or I'll talk about the transition bridge. To successfully reach the desired change requires commitment, consistent effort, not only to the change, but also to the process of change, that transition. So when we are younger, change isn't as daunting because the changes are in many ways mapped out for us. We expect to change from grammar school into high school and graduate from high school and go on to college. The tough change comes when we graduate from college and attempt to shoulder the full responsibilities of adulthood, like taking on a full time job and paying bills. But there are other changes that require a transition bridge, like marriage or the death of a spouse, serious injury or illness, or the process of segueing into the senior years. And here is where I will move into the purpose of today's conversation. It's all about seniors. Although our modern world has made becoming older more glamorous and less daunting, the reality is that growing older is a huge life change with a long transition bridge. In many ways, I think that in our youth bound culture, it's just easier to deny the changes that we experience as we age. Those first few steps on that transition bridge are always taken in denial. We deny the things we are feeling in our body, but we do get some assistance with that. There's a medical and pharmaceutical system that has a surgical procedure or a pill for every ache and pain. Many businesses and organizations also have tapped into the senior market and provided needed products and services, which are gladly accepted and used by seniors. But there is an area that is not being fully met. And the pandemic showed this up. And that's the mental health arena when it comes to seniors. There are mental health services that include the senior population, but no one is paying attention to the quiet storm of aging. Seniors don't always have the opportunity to express how they are experiencing the process of aging. The realization that our bodies are not functioning as they used to function is only one part of aging. There are, however, the quiet conversations that seniors have with themselves as they notice these changes, and it's painful. These quiet conversations are filled with doubts, anxieties, and fears. It's like we know that we will die, but most people are unaware that seniors grieve their life while they are still living. We try not to think about how much our bodies have changed and how much and how quickly we are losing capabilities we once took for granted. We grieve that we are more dependent on others than we once were. And some of us struggle to not show our needs. Because the workforce is less robust than it once was, seniors with skills are welcomed back into the workforce, yet many discover and feel the disappointment of being a stopgap measure when younger ones are hired to fill their job. So, why is this quiet storm so important? In a word, suicide. Suicide is the 11th major cause of death in the United States, with its highest rate among older adults. Economic and physical problems and emotional lack of support gather into a quiet storm that can easily overwhelm elderly ones. So, if you have the blessing of older ones, see to it that their physical, emotional, and spiritual needs are being met, that they have someone to speak with regularly. Listen to them and don't abandon them. Now more than ever, seniors are at risk, even if they have a country club style retirement life. If you think or know of a senior who is at risk, please contact her local suicide hotline. Now, on this note, please be aware that 988 is now the 3-digit dialing code that routes callers to the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. On July 16, 2022, the 988 Lifeline transitioned away from the National Suicide Prevention Line, reached through a 10-digit number to the 3-digit 988 Lifeline. It is funded by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration and administered by Vibrant Emotional Health, Vibrant for short. So, 988 is now the way to find local help for anyone who may be at risk for suicide. More than just a thought. This is the Reconnect Factor, the podcast of the Power Play Reconnect experience. I'm your host, Ruth Haskins. Thank you for listening.